So hello and welcome here to our game with myself, Gerard Browne. Obviously, it's time now to talk a little bit of football, the second weekend of the championship this weekend rolling into town. And I'm delighted to be joined by former All-Ireland winner and man of the match in an All-Ireland final, Kevin Nolan of Dublin. Kevin, how are things?
Yeah, all's good. Yeah, thanks very much for having me. Again, championship football around the corner now, so exciting times ahead.
Yeah, as of course mentioned, obviously it was maybe a little bit of a slow burner kind of last weekend. Was I suppose I know we had some of the big hitters of Donegal, Kerry, and Mayo, but they all kind of wrapped up kind of comprehensive victories as expected. And maybe some of the smaller games in Leinster that really kind of caught the eye.
Yeah, I know a few people have been saying it now. Sort of, especially with the Euros on now, there's a bit of competition now for viewers and supporters whether they're going to stick with the Gaelic football or watch a bit of soccer. But no, I think especially the Wexford Wicklow game threw a bit of excitement now ahead of them welcoming Dublin down to Wexford Park. But yeah, the other slow burners, I think it's just a formality really for a lot of teams just to get out there and put their best foot forward for championship ahead. But again, no real surprises then apart from maybe Wexford winning after a number of years without a Leinster win.
Yeah, it was hard to believe it was for a county that competed so strong against yourselves, Dublin, in the latter parts of the early parts of the last decade, which we might touch on. It's mad to think they went that famine of along without a win in the province. And as I mentioned, it kind of probably brings things on quite nicely to their game this weekend up against Dublin, the Ireland champions. They have home advantage, as I mentioned, of course, your former side there. It's a massive task ahead of them. I was just looking through and I was doing a bit of research. Dublin are going for 11 consecutive Leinster titles, I think 16 in 70 years. It's 30 straight wins. They've an average winning margin of just under 15 points. I think in the early part of the decade, that dominance, the likes of Meath, Kildare, Wexford, the touch on, always used to kind of give them a game. But since the 2013 Leinster final, when they bet Meath by 7 points, only Kildare in 2017 have got within single digits. So it just gives you a good indication of the size of the task ahead of Shane Roach's men on Sunday.
It does, yeah. And as you said, like even when I was back playing, it was not that long ago, but no, 10 years ago, Wexford are putting it up to us, maybe 1 or 2 point victories. My second game against them, we actually went to extra time in 2010 in the first round. So, it just shows how much dominance Dublin have shown in Leinster in the last, 15 years as well. So particularly dominating teams on the scoreboard just as well as the performance as well.
Yeah, of course, we are actually going live here as well on YouTube and Facebook. So if you want to get any comments in, anything to talk about to Kevin, or any kind of talk about football, we'll definitely try and kind of get through it. Just kind of maybe one thing I kind of noticed from Dublin, something you mightn't actually quite associate with them, is maybe a bit of a weak link in defence from the National League. Now, I know in terms of honours and everything else like that, it wasn't maybe the most enthralling league. Now, it still had some very, very good games, but only Galway and Mayo had a worse defensive record than them, and they both end up being relegated. Like, they did end up conceding some high scores throughout the league. Dublin, like 16 points against Roscommon, 114 against Donegal, 118 against Kerry, and I think it was 115 against Galway. Do you think that is kind of maybe a case of maybe they have slipped back a little bit in defence, or is it kind of a case of them type of games that, for instance, the Roscommon Donegal game, you always kind of felt that no matter what the opposition scored, we score more, there's more gear in us. It's, like I said, at the end of the day, while there might be 2 points at stake, a league victory, there's no overall major goal of a title.
Yeah, I just think, again, sort of Dublin's sort of mentality now in the last number of years in particular has been sort of we'll outscore you. And obviously not forgetting about the defensive duties. But I do think, yes, they've blooded some new players. There's some new lads in there in the last number of years. And it's good to get, Sean McMahon in and Owen Merchant again another year under his belt, and Robbie McDade as well. So there's a lot of new lads in there that wouldn't have been there 2, 3, 4 years ago. So again, they're sort of fitting themselves in nicely into the squad and into the starting 15. Adding more firepower as well up front. My ex Kilmacud man Darren Mullen in there as well, getting game time, which is great to see. Cormac Costello stepping in, taking the frees when Dean Rock has been absent. And, even the goalkeeping situation with Stephen not being about for whatever reason, there's other lads there to step in and show what they can give, because, just because the 15 there or the subs that come on, there's still plenty of lads within the county that do be pushing every year to get into the Dublin squad in total, whether it be these in-house games, and it's just great to see young lads coming through and being given a chance. Again, Desi would have a familiarity with them from his underage management of the Dublin team. So again, he's given them a chance. Whether we're up to the level, it will you'll see it come championship. But I think they've put their best foot forward now in the league match that they have had up to date. So no, I don't think I can't see them slipping up much. I can't see that they have slipped up, but I do think teams will look to get at certain players anyway to test them come championship.
Yeah, we just Shane actually had Peter Claffey on the football show a couple of weeks ago, and Peter was kind of saying that while there's still a core kind of a good group there, that the underage success maybe has dried up a little bit. I know they got to under 20s at Ireland final just before Christmas, but I think if you go back as far as 2017 for the last time Dublin won an under 21 Ireland title, and that's far from an underage crisis or anything else like that. But you just say kind of the young caliber of players is drying up a little in the last while, and feels maybe that there might only be maybe one or two All-Irelands in that team. Would you kind of agree with that, or would you say like there was evidence during the league with the likes of Darren Mullen, Paddy O'Gree for Byrne, Tom Lahiff, Sean McMahon all coming in and all doing good jobs during the league at various stages?
Well, I think again Dublin's success has been the fact that every year they've been able to bring through a couple of players, whether it be into the starting 15 based on the competition, or even into the squad to gain experience. Because if you look at it, there's still plenty of lads there that have their back pockets filled now with All Ireland medals, and they're just again growing in experience, and they're passing that experience on to the younger players. So no, I have to be honest, for people saying maybe might be trying up underage, I just think if you can bring a couple of players through every single year, they learn from playing and from training with all these lads who have benefited massively from their experience in Croke Park and experience at the latter stages of championship. Brian Fenton there, 2-time player of the year. Again, Paddy O'Gree Byrne, he'll learn a lot from him in training. And likewise, again, if Brian sees that there's a lot of competition there for place, it's going to drive him on even more. The only issue I would have, and you would sort of start to look at, is there maybe a lack of hunger with some of the players and commitment levels. The fact that people have seen what it's like without football, they've seen other walks of life that they can get involved in, and just the fact that there've been a couple of lads maybe in their prime of their Gaelic football careers stepping away from the panel might be a bit of a worry come maybe the next number of years with Dublin. That's the only thing I see in Dublin sort of issues at the minute.
Yeah, it could be an interesting argument to say that an argument called weaker council always make us we don't have our best players buying in and playing for us. Like it could be argued, could be said that 2 or 3 of the best players in Dublin aren't even a part of the panel, the likes of Jack McCaffrey and Paul Mannion, that stepped away.
Yeah, and again that's sort of down to I know I actually read an article there recently enough from Paul about the commitment required for a senior and county player. And again, I know he would have stepped away from the panel a number of years ago to go travelling, but also as well as sort of college and work commitments over to China. So again, he's sort of seen different walks of life and different experiences people can gain. So sometimes it can be hard to get on the bike again and go again. But again, you look at some of the players who have been there and who are doing it year in, year out, and you have to sort of maybe learn from them, because as you said, there's still some of the best players in Dublin club football that aren't on the panel based on the commitment levels that they have to give. And maybe the short season again will sort of help that. But again, I was chatting to a few people up here in Monaghan, and they were saying, maybe the fact that you have a season that last year people were mad to get back playing Gaelic football, and then with a bit of a dragged out this year, maybe we all thought this time last year that we'd be playing flat out club football. But the way things have gone, there's been a bit of delay in football, and you'd be worried that some players might decide to just step away because of maybe other social aspects being opened back up and being able to enjoy their walks of life.
Yeah, it's certainly one thing that Dubs can say, that maybe it was always better, and they always had the best players. They can always say, well, look, we're in the same boat as every other county, maybe in the small bit. And while Dublin are going to be massive favourites this game, I'm probably going to be expected to win this game by something up to around 20 points or something. I don't mean to be disrespectful and saying that direction, but like I said, the evidence and the gap in divisions. But as we've seen with Dublin, when it comes to these quarter-final games in Leinster against the opposition, standards don't drop, performance levels are the same. Still a couple of question marks around team selection. Obviously, the likes of Conor Callaghan or Cormac Costa in particular, a very, very good league campaign. So mentioned some of the young players kind of come in, but the number 1 position is debating a good bit of talk at the moment surrounding Stephen Cluxton. Now, they were saying the Sunday game last week, Des Cahill and Kieran Whelan, that he played for his club Parnells last week. Kieran Whelan isn't expecting to be between the posts on Sunday. But I was listening to Paddy Andrews with his podcast, Andy Moore, and he's saying he's back in. So it's a kind of a case of it's hard to kind of really know what to make and what to expect and who we actually are going to see in there, because we've seen a rotation between Evan Comerford and Michael Shield between the league.
Yeah, and listen, Stephen, the experience he has, he could literally just turn up nearly the day before a game and go in and slot in, and you'd expect the best from him, and that's the standards that he'd be setting himself. Obviously, he'd be just mad to play a bit of football as well. I'm not sure the injury, I'm not sure what the issues were beforehand, but no, listen, if he's available, I think he starts. But again, if he's not, Evan Comerford has shown in the last number of years, if he's needed to step in even in league campaign. Michael Shield as well, I thought did well during the league when he got a chance. But again, I see Desi, not being afraid of making a decision if needed, that he starts one of the younger lads based on their experiences and their performances so far this year.
Yeah, one player we know for definite who won't be involved in something, that's Keane O'Sullivan, who announced his retirement due to injury during the week. Of course, a former club mate of yours as well with Kimberley Crooks, and there's no two ways about it. He will go down as one of the greats of the game. 8 All-Ireland senior medals. Made his debut in 2009. He can add 5 National Leagues, 10 Leinster titles, 3 All-Stars as well. I think, correct in saying, there was a Club All-Ireland there with Kim McCode as well, 2009. Yeah. So he's literally completed the lot. Obviously, didn't play last year. Injuries kind of forced upon the decision. But as I say, you got to probably see him up close and personal more than anyone, because you got to play alongside him with the Crokes. Just an unbelievable servant for both club and county.
Yeah, well, even at that, I'd have been same age as him. So growing up, we were together with development squads and all that, and minors and under 21s. Underage, we would have been on a team in Kilmacud that would have been we would have been serial losers in the fact that we'd never have won any particular medal. Come up to 2006 at minor, we got a minor Division A championship win, but before that we were literally losing in quarterfinals and semi-finals. So again, I've been on teams with Keane, successful and unsuccessful ones. So luckily shared quite a lot of victories with him, club and county. Massive privilege winning a 2009 All-Ireland club with Kilmacud Crokes, and the same year winning the Leinster with Jim Gavin, under 21 with Dublin. So there's been a massive loss there for Dublin football, but again, what he's left behind and his legacy that he has left has been phenomenal. They were talking about sweeper roles and all that. So he redefined it. He really sort of shored up a defence that leaked goals, leaked points against Donegal 2014, and there was a position there that needed to be filled. And he made it into his own. Is it a loss for Dublin football? 100%. His experience, even his mannerisms on and off the field for young lads coming into the squad. So he'll be a massive loss, and I'm sure he'll enjoy the next number of years with his young family and all that. So I'd wish him the best. Send him a text, because again, that's just we'd have grown up together playing football, and it's a pity to see a lad having to stop football based on injuries. But listen, he knows his body best, and again, like all the footballers playing with Dublin now, they have that bit of humility that when they're not able to give their 100%, they're not available, because we know that if you're a couple of percent off, you're sort of maybe taken away from the team or taken away from the squad, and there is other lads there to step into position. So he left the position in a better position that he got it, and again, that's all you can sort of ask for from footballers, that you just leave it in a better place than you got it.
Yeah, and opposition players have been singing his praises and talking up since his announcement Sundays. I think that just comes up as well. Just that under 21 Leinster, was that 2010 as well, the same year they won the All-Ireland against Donegal?
No, that was the year before. Jim's first year, we lost to Cork in the semi-final. That would have been myself, Keane O'Sullivan and Paddy Andrews, that our age group.
Definitely would have completed a lot. He was on that team as well. Just as something, as you mentioned there, obviously kind of teased up nicely. I'm going to ask you, since you dropped him a text. Obviously, as you said, you're not just club mates. You grew up, you started playing football together. You reached the summit together then in 2011. Even since you kind of stepped away from Dublin panel, and then obviously now you've relocated to Monaghan, would the kind of bond and closeness and friendship still be very much there with Keane?
Well, it wouldn't be as much with certain players. So, so when you're out of that bubble, you're sort of away from the group and all that. I would have been sort of late to Gaelic football, so I wouldn't have been, again, playing with the nurseries and all that with Keane. He'd have been maybe introducing the Gaelic football a bit earlier than I was. I was a big soccer head and came to it a bit later. But listen, we were on the same age group from 15s up. And you know, it was, as I said, a massive privilege to be able to play with himself, and again have a few medals in the back pocket shared with him. So yeah, no, again, other things, when you're away from the group, you're away from lads and all that, there is that bit of a loss or a bit of a void in sort of teammates and all that and so on. But no, it was when you're up here in a different part of the county as well, you're sort of seen as if maybe, I don't know, maybe an outsider. So I'm trying to fit in here in Monaghan as best as I possibly can. But still, I do have the Dublin jersey on now and again, just to show that I am still supporting the real Dubs.
Is that why you're wearing white there, just to represent the Farmy Army colours there?
It's just a bit of a neutral colour here for today, but I had the Dublin jersey on there yesterday when I was away on my trip, so just showing the people up in County Down that I'm supporting the old Dubs.
Sure. Isn't it nice as well that the way the games are fixed this weekend? Monaghan are Saturday, Dublin are Sunday, so there'll be no divided loyalty as to what jersey will be going on over the weekend. Just obviously as well, like Wexford coming into this game, fantastic victory for them, as we touched on, the first win in the province in 7 years, beating Wicklow. They had a couple of even setbacks, like the last one of their main forwards, Ben Brosnan, who's been around for a long time. Dahi Walters, another main man for that team throughout the years. He picked up a black card during the game. They kept Wicklow scoreless after the second water break, which I think was very, very impressive. Scored 1-2 to see that game out. As I touched on, like they had, you take back this time 10 years ago, Wexford, always able to push Dublin to the pin of the column in the province. And I see another player as well from that time still going strong is Brian Malone. So there's a lot of experience in this Wexford team.
There is now, and again, my first start for Dublin was against Wexford in 2008 in the Leinster final, and then my last game for Dublin was 2014 against Wexford. So I've had quite a lot of encounters with them. And again, a college mate of mine, Shane Roach, would have started in I think it was maybe wing forward or corner forward in 2008. Then he was a goalkeeper in 2013, I think, when we played them. 2012, sorry, and now he's the manager. So he's sort of been he's been making his way back slowly back towards the dugout, we'll say. But no, he's done a great job to get them a win in the first win in 7 years. And the fact that they're playing down in Wexford Park, they're able to invite the Dubs down, and you know, they might pat them onto the field, and you know, the fact that they're the six-time All-Ireland, six in a row All-Ireland winners, and he'll be, I guarantee you, with all the experienced lads, the Malones, the Waters and all that, they'd be looking to maybe give them a kicking around down there. But again, you'd see that the experience of Dublin, the quality of their players and their play over the last number of years will show through. Something that was impressive with Wexford, though, again, their strong run and their fitness runs the last day, as you said, they kept Wicklow scoreless. But even their runs from deep, their runs from the half-back line, the midfield, they were impressive. And again, I'm sure they like to put their best foot forward again and show that come Sunday. But again, as I just said, I can't imagine they'd be keeping Dublin scoreless between any of the water breaks or half-time breaks, unfortunately for them.
You just never know. It could be a funny game. But as touched on there, like three great games with very little between them. Like 2010 went to extra time. There was a 14-point swing of that. Wexford were 7 points up at one stage. Dublin win it by 7 after extra time. 2011, 2-12 to 1-12. That was the final, and then the semi-final. That was 2011. Sorry, 2012. Then 4 points Dublin won in provincial semi-final. Actually, Jim Connolly got sent off in that game. Just the 2011 game, when we take back obviously what went on to happen for the remainder of that summer, and Dublin went all the way to win Sam in September. Like, just how kind of crucial of a moment along the journey was that game, because Wexford went 3 points up. They were actually 5 points down at one stage in the first half. Kept you scoreless for 23 minutes. Went 3 points up to Redmond's Barry goal. We're on top, kind of silence the hill. And then you have kind of the two goals. One, a little bit of unfortunate, where Anthony Masterson hits off Malloy. I can't remember his first name. And then obviously the wonderful, wonderful goal from James McCarthy that probably ended the game with about 15 minutes ago and put Dublin 5 points up. It could have been so different only for them little kind of breaks just went Dublin's way that day. Yeah,
sometimes people do say you're better off to be a lucky team than a good team. And again, unfortunately for Wexford, we had that bit of luck on the day, as you said, with Graham Malloy, full-back that day, ball hitting off him, rebounding into the net. It was, you know, between that and even the Kildare game to win by a point, sort of set us on our way. In, you know, when we look back at it, that's that bit of luck that was needed to get us over the line on a couple of occasions in 2011. So again, I think, unfortunately for Wexford this Sunday, they'll need a lot of luck. They'll need Dublin bus nearly not turning up in order to get a bit of a win for them. But no, listen, for 2011 and even the previous matches, Wexford would have put it up to us massively. The likes of Red Barry, my first start for Dublin, as I said, in 2008 was marking Red Barry, and it was an experience in its own. The fact that I was sent out to man mark him, and he gave me a bit of a runabout, and I was taken off after about 21 minutes, I think it was. after being yellow carded. So for me, it was a massive developmental stage because they were some of the top players in the game at that time, let alone in Leinster. Matty Ford as well. They were able to. There was players playing with Wexford that would start on quite a lot of teams in around the country. So I just think at the minute they're missing those marquee players, but what they are missing, they've sort of filled in with hunger and that bit of fitness, as I said.
Just maybe one last point on this before we might talk a little bit briefly about the Monaghan Fermanagh game of the weekend. Just this kind of thing when you look back on Wexford from 10 years ago, just even kind of underline the evolution of how important the league has changed over the last decade, because them 3 matches we touched on, every single year Wexford were actually in Division 3 of the league, and there they were able to go toe-to-toe with one of the top teams in the country. As you alluded to at that time in 2008, while in the end you get them a bit of a pacing for a finish, they showed unbelievable character turnarounds to reach an Ireland semi-final once again while competing in Division 3. It's mad now like that, even if, say for instance, someone like my own county or Scotland went back down to Division 2 next year, if you're not in Division 1, you're not even given a snowball's chance of winning the All-Ireland. But then again, 10 years ago, it almost kind of seemed it didn't matter what division you were in.
Yeah, but even if, maybe even back then, they may not have had aspirations of winning All-Ireland, but, they could have taken a few high-profile scalps, even by being
but
down.
You wouldn't see now, like.
Yeah, like you talk about, like now it's, you even look at Cavan there last year, impressively coming through Ulster, and now they were relegated this year. So the league, yes, it's people are putting more importance on it. It's just, people want to be up at the top to play regularly against the top teams to learn from it, because that's where you need to be in order to show your development. But sometimes on the day, and the fact there's no knockout football, sometimes it could be the kick of a ball. Sometimes, you look at Donegal last year as well, sort of they'd be kicking themselves, the fact that they lost out to Cavan in a province that they felt that they should be, that they are, I'd have them down as number 1, that they should be coming through it. Took their eye off the ball maybe, and Cavan benefited massively from it. But I think, in relation to Leinster, it's a one-horse race the whole time. Up here in Monaghan, yes, they're mad about their football up here. It's a religion up here for quite a lot of people in different parishes. And last year would have cut Monaghan people to shreds. And even, talking about their game last a couple of weeks ago against Galway, for them to stay up in Division 1 was massive for them, especially the fact that they've blooded a lot of new lads and a lot of young lads in that would have done well in club championship last year. So that's where they want to be. They want to see themselves at the top table. And again, they have to make sure that they put out a performance on Saturday against Fermanagh to sort of cement that place in the top tier of teams.
Yeah, that just brings us on nicely, maybe just before we finish up, for that game on Saturday. They're dear and near neighbours, Monaghan and Fermanagh, but they don't actually tend to meet that much in Ulster Championship. I know they met in the qualifiers, I think it was 2 years ago, and Monaghan came out on top of that. And while obviously they had that fantastic victory against Galway after extra time, showed great character, do you really kind of think that they'll be looking to put down a marker on Saturday? Because that's probably still vivid, the memories of that game against Cavan. For 35 minutes, they looked like they had that game won. And then for some reason, albeit maybe playing against the wind, they just kind of stepped back and decided to protect their lead and invited Cavan on. And as you say, we all know what happened then for the rest of the autumn. Yeah,
like literally as soon as that game finished, there was people, probing to find out what exactly went wrong, and there was post-mortems on the game itself, and they had to have a big look at themselves. And obviously, unfortunately, for the management team with different personnel stepping away to get involved with other teams, they brought in other players. They brought in ex-players, and they brought in Buckley as well. From again, I'm not too far from the county training grounds, and even chatting to a few of the players that are involved, maybe in school myself. A lot of tackling will be done in the sessions and all, and you can sort of see that in the games that they're mad to get contact on and get turnovers. But in relation to the team itself, they'd be mad to get a win, especially after the poor performance last year. And Banty, obviously in a second stint with the county team, he'd be mad to get them going again, because again, the route through to an Ulster final isn't that difficult. They're missing quite a few of the big teams, but still, again, it just shows like last year, if they take their eye off the ball, any team could beat them. And again, the players that they do have, they'd have a few players that would get onto most county teams in the country, and they'd be looking to step up now, because they're probably some of the age profile of some of the players is getting towards the twilight of their career. Yes, there is a few young lads that they're starting to blood and introduce into the squad, but there won't be too many more campaigns for them, especially if it doesn't go too well for them on Saturday.
You've just upset a lot of people in Armagh by saying they're not one of the big teams in the same side that draws them. Just finally, maybe before we finish up, we've heard a lot this week about county rivalries, border counties having big rivalry to regardless of maybe where they're geographically located within the county. Obviously, Monaghan, Fermanagh, they are neighbouring counties, but would it be clash from a Monaghan point of view? Would they look at Fermanagh as one of kind of their big rivals, someone they really love to kind of get over, or is it just a case of you're from the part of Monaghan that borders Fermanagh, that's kind of it? Other than that, the rest of Monaghan, they have maybe the likes of your Cavans, your Armaghs, your Tyrones, who are the bigger counties in Ulster.
Yeah, I think even when you touch on the point there that they haven't come across them too often in Championship, it's more so seems Monaghan come up against Cavan and Tyrone quite a good bit, and they're the sort of teams again being a blow in into the county. And from chatting to a few people about it, they'd be saying, it's more the likes of Tyrone and Cavans that they seem to come across year in, year out, and they're the teams that they'd love to, maybe not love to, but they hate losing to, and obviously they'd love to get a win over them. But no, I just think it's another Championship game of football. Yes, they're local enough rivals, but from where I am in the county, Fermanagh wouldn't be too close, so there wouldn't be that much of a hatred or a love for them. So I can't really comment on that. It's more sort of likes of the Cavans and Tyrones, maybe a bit of Armagh as well. But yeah, no, I think even when you look at Monaghan and Armagh, I know I said that they weren't one of the top teams, but again, you'd be looking at the likes of Donegal and Tyrone on the opposite side of the group. But I think if Monaghan do get through, again, it's the likes of Armaghs and Monaghan are looking to get through to the final on that side of the draw, and that's where it brings up a tasty fixture for Monaghan that if they do get a win, they can get the momentum going. It's just making sure that they get over the line on Saturday.
Yeah, so we'll just have to wait and see how the weekend plays out. Anyway, hopefully it'll be a double delight for yourself on Sunday evening, Kevin. But thanks very much for joining us here today anyway on our game, and best of luck.
Very good. Thanks very much, Gerard. Thanks for that.
All right, Kevin.